What happens when scientists point their instruments at the unexplained, and the instruments confirm it? Not folklore, not eyewitness testimony, not legend. Recorded data, documented phenomena, evidence that survived peer review. Hessdalen Valley, Norway. Scientists set up automated monitoring stations to capture mysterious lights in the sky. The lights appeared, the equipment recorded them, and after decades of study, no one can explain what they are. Cecil Hotel, Los Angeles, 2013. Elevator security footage captures behavior that sparked worldwide speculation. The recording is real. The questions it raised remain unanswered. Brown Mountain, North Carolina. Mysterious lights have been observed for over a century. They've been studied by government researchers, documented by the U.S. Geological Survey, and witnessed by thousands. They still appear, and they still defy explanation. 3 cases where the paranormal was recorded, measured, analyzed, and confirmed to exist. Tonight we're examining evidence that can't be dismissed as imagination, because when scientists say, "we don't know," that's when things get interesting. Watch closely, because sometimes the most disturbing proof is the proof that something is real. Let's begin in a valley where the scientific method met something it couldn't measure. Hessdalen is a 12-kilometer-long valley in the municipality of Hessdalen, Trøndelag County, Norway. Population: approximately 150 people. It's rural, isolated, and has been the site of one of the longest-running scientific investigations of unexplained aerial phenomena in history. The lights began appearing in 1981. The initial reports, 1981-1984. Starting in December 1981, residents of Hessdalen Valley began reporting strange lights in the sky. These weren't brief flashes or distant, ambiguous glows. These were sustained, bright, structured lights that moved with purpose and exhibited behaviors inconsistent with known natural or man-made phenomena. The lights were described as white, yellow, or red in color, appearing at various altitudes, from ground level to high altitude, stationary for extended periods, then suddenly accelerating to high speed, sometimes pulsating or changing color, visible for durations ranging from a few seconds to over an hour. Between 1981 and 1984, sightings occurred almost nightly. Residents reported up to 20 observations per week during peak periods. The consistency and frequency attracted attention beyond the local community. Project Hessdalen, 1983-1985. In 1983, a group of Norwegian and Swedish researchers established Project Hessdalen to study the phenomenon scientifically. The team included engineers, physicists, and researchers from Norwegian universities. They conducted field studies during winter seasons when sightings were most frequent. The team deployed spectrum analyzers, magnetometers, seismographs, infrared detection equipment, radar systems, high-quality cameras, and video equipment. What they recorded. Between January and February 1984, Project Hessdalen documented 53 light phenomena. These were not subjective observations, they were instrumental detections. Key findings included radar confirmation. The lights were detected on radar, confirming they were physical objects reflecting electromagnetic radiation. Radar returns showed objects moving at speeds varying from stationary to over 30,000 km/h, far exceeding any known aircraft capabilities. Spectrum analysis. Spectroscopic analysis of the lights revealed emissions inconsistent with combustion, electrical discharge, or known atmospheric phenomena. The spectrum showed unusual line patterns that didn't match any cataloged light source. Temperature measurements. Infrared sensors detected heat signatures, but the temperature readings didn't correlate with the visual brightness of the lights. Some bright lights showed minimal heat, while dimmer lights showed higher thermal output. Magnetic anomalies. Magnetometers registered fluctuations when lights appeared, suggesting interaction with Earth's magnetic field. However, the fluctuations didn't match patterns from known sources like lightning or auroras. Photographic evidence. Multiple photographs and video recordings captured structured lights with defined edges, ruling out atmospheric blur or lens artifacts. Some images showed lights with geometric shapes, elliptical, cylindrical, or spherical. The automated station, 1998 present. In 1998, Italian physicist Dr. Massimo Teodorani, in collaboration with Norwegian researchers, installed an automated monitoring station in Hessdalen. This station operates continuously, recording data 24/7 using optical cameras, radar, spectrum analyzers, VLF very low frequency radio receivers, magnetometers. The station has recorded hundreds of anomalous events since installation. Data is publicly accessible and has been analyzed by researchers worldwide. Scientific theories, none conclusive. Multiple hypotheses have been proposed to explain the Hessdalen lights. 1. Piezoelectric effect. The valley contains rocks with quartz and other piezoelectric minerals. Tectonic stress could theoretically generate electrical charges, producing lights. However, this doesn't explain controlled movement or sustained brightness. 2. Ball lightning. Some researchers suggest the lights are a rare form of ball lightning. However, ball lightning typically lasts seconds, not hours, and doesn't exhibit the controlled flight patterns observed in Hessdalen. 3. Plasma phenomena. Dr. Teodorani proposed the lights might be ionized plasma formations created by unknown electromagnetic processes in the valley's unique geological environment. This theory aligns with some data, but doesn't explain all observations. 4. Combustion of gases. Geological surveys detected small amounts of radon and other gases in the valley. Some hypothesize combustion of these gases creates lights. However, this doesn't account for radar returns or structured shapes. 5. Unknown natural phenomenon. Some scientists conclude the lights represent an entirely unknown natural process, something Earth's atmosphere can produce under specific, poorly understood conditions. What we know vs what we don't. Confirmed facts. The lights exist. They've been photographed, filmed, and detected by multiple instruments. They appear regularly in Hessdalen Valley, though less frequently than in the 1980s, now averaging several times per month. They exhibit physical properties. They reflect radar, emit light across the spectrum, and generate heat. They move in ways inconsistent with weather balloons, aircraft, drones, or known atmospheric phenomena. Unanswered questions. What generates them? Why do they appear primarily in this specific valley? Why did frequency decrease after the mid-1980s? What controls their movement patterns? Current status. The Hessdalen phenomenon remains under active study. The automated station continues recording data. Researchers from Italy, Norway, and other countries periodically conduct field studies. The phenomenon is openly discussed in scientific literature, with papers published in peer-reviewed journals. The lights still appear. Scientists still don't know why. And Hessdalen Valley remains one of the few places on Earth where the paranormal is studied not with ghost hunting equipment, but with radar, spectrometers, and the scientific method. From lights in the sky that science confirms, to footage from an elevator that the internet couldn't stop watching. The Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles has a dark history. Built in 1924, it became associated with crime, suicides, and 2 serial killers who stayed there, Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger. By 2013, it had a notorious reputation. But on February 19, 2013, the Cecil Hotel became famous for something else. A piece of security footage that millions would watch, analyze, and argue about. The background. Alyssa Lamb was a 21-year-old Canadian student from Vancouver, British Columbia. She was traveling solo through California, staying at the Cecil Hotel in a shared dormitory room. She maintained an active Tumblr blog documenting her trip. She suffered from bipolar disorder and depression, but was managing her conditions with prescribed medication. On January 31, 2013, Alyssa checked into the Cecil Hotel. She was last seen on January 31st. When she failed to check out on February 1st and didn't contact her family, they reported her missing. Los Angeles Police Department began an investigation. On February 14, 2013, 2 weeks after she disappeared, police released security footage from the Cecil Hotel elevator, hoping someone might recognize Alyssa or provide information about her whereabouts. The footage went viral, not because it solved the mystery, but because it raised more questions. The elevator footage. The video, timestamped from the hotel's internal system, shows approximately 4 minutes of Alyssa Lamb inside one of the Cecil Hotel elevators. The footage shows 000-030. Alyssa enters the elevator, presses multiple floor buttons. The doors don't close. 030-100. She steps to the corner of the elevator, appears to wait. Still, the doors don't close. 100-130. She peeks her head out into the hallway, looking left and right, as if checking for someone. 130-200. She steps into the hallway out of the camera's view. For several seconds, she's not visible. 200-230. She re-enters the elevator, moves to the side panel and presses more buttons, almost all of them. 230-330. She stands in the corner of the elevator, makes hand gestures, waving, pressing hands together, moving arms in unusual patterns. Her movements appear erratic, almost as if she's communicating with someone unseen. 330-400. She steps out of the elevator again. The elevator doors finally close. The elevator begins moving, stopping at multiple floors due to all the buttons pressed. What made it disturbing? Viewers noticed several strange elements. 1. The elevator doors. Elevator doors typically close within 5-10 seconds unless obstructed. In the footage, the doors remain open for over 3 minutes despite no visible obstruction. Alyssa presses the door close button multiple times. It doesn't work. 2. Her behavior. Alyssa's hand movements in the latter half of the footage are unusual. She appears to be gesturing to someone or something in the hallway, but no one is visible on camera. Her body language suggests communication, possibly conversation. 3. The timeline. This footage was recorded on January 31, 2013, the last day Alyssa was seen alive. Whatever happened to her occurred shortly after this recording. 4. The concealment. When the LAPD released the footage, they edited out the timestamp. This sparked conspiracy theories, though police later explained it was standard procedure to protect investigative details. The discovery. On February 19, 2013, guests at the Cecil Hotel complained about low water pressure and strange taste in the tap water. Maintenance staff went to the roof to check the water tanks. Inside one of the 4 large water tanks, they found Alyssa Lamb's body. She was naked. Her clothes and belongings were floating nearby in the tank. The hatch to the water tank was open, though it's normally locked and requires a ladder to access. The autopsy. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office conducted an autopsy. Findings included: cause of death, drowning. Manner of death, accident. No signs of physical trauma or assault. Toxicology showed prescription medications in her system, consistent with her known prescriptions, but levels were lower than expected, suggesting she may not have been taking them as prescribed. The official conclusion: Alyssa experienced a manic episode related to her bipolar disorder, accessed the roof, climbed into the water tank, and accidentally drowned. The unanswered questions. 1. How did she access the roof? The roof was locked and alarmed. Hotel staff claimed it couldn't be accessed without triggering an alarm. No alarm was triggered the night Alyssa disappeared. 2. How did she get into the water tank? The water tanks are tall cylindrical structures. The hatch is heavy and requires effort to open. The ladder is mounted on the side. If Alyssa was experiencing a manic episode severe enough to explain erratic behavior, could she have physically climbed the ladder and opened the hatch? 3. Why was she naked? Her clothes were found in the water tank with her. This is sometimes explained by paradoxical undressing, a phenomenon where hypothermia victims remove clothing due to confusion. However, Lowe's Angels in January isn't typically cold enough for hypothermia, and water tanks aren't freezing. 4. The elevator behavior. Was she hiding from someone, talking to someone, experiencing hallucinations? The footage shows behavior that could align with a mental health crisis or someone trying to avoid a pursuer. 5. The water tank hatch. After Alyssa's body was found, the hatch was closed. If she entered the tank and drowned, who closed the hatch? If it was already closed when she died, how did she get inside? Theories. Official explanation: Alyssa was in a manic state, accessed the roof, possibly through a fire escape or propped door, climbed into the water tank and drowned. The elevator behavior was part of her manic episode. Alternative theories. Someone was with her in the hallway, not visible on camera, and pursued her, leading to her hiding in the water tank. She was meeting someone on the roof, willingly or otherwise, and the encounter went wrong. Paranormal involvement, given the Cecil Hotel's history. Scientific and skeptical analysis. Mental health professionals reviewing the footage noted that Alyssa's behavior is consistent with a manic episode or acute psychosis, particularly the hand gestures, repeated button pressing, and erratic movements. However, this doesn't conclusively explain the physical logistics: the locked roof, the heavy water tank hatch, the closed hatch after her death. The footage today. The elevator footage remains one of the most watched pieces of security camera evidence in true crime history. It's been analyzed frame by frame, enhanced, slowed down, and debated endlessly. It shows Alyssa Lamb's final known moments. It raises questions about what happened next, but it doesn't provide answers. The Cecil Hotel, now rebranded as Stay on Main, still operates. The elevator still functions, and the footage still plays on a loop online, 4 minutes that captured a mystery we may never fully understand. From footage that raised questions to lights that raised scientific instruments. Brown Mountain is a relatively small ridge in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, near the towns of Morganton and Linville. It rises 2,600 feet above sea level and is covered in dense forest. It's unremarkable in almost every way, except for the lights. For over a century, mysterious lights have appeared near Brown Mountain. They've been documented by scientists, studied by government agencies, witnessed by thousands, and remain unexplained. Historical documentation. The earliest written account of the Brown Mountain lights dates to 1771, when German engineer Gerard Wildebrandt reported seeing mysterious lights in the area. However, local Cherokee folklore references the lights in stories predating European colonization, suggesting the phenomenon has existed for centuries. In 1913, the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, sent geologist D.B. Stewart to investigate reports of strange lights. Stewart observed the lights personally and documented their characteristics, but couldn't determine their origin. In 1922, the USGS sent another team led by George Rogers Mansfield. Mansfield conducted a more thorough investigation, observing the lights on multiple nights and attempting to trace them to possible sources. Characteristics of the lights. Witnesses consistently describe the Brown Mountain lights as appearance, typically spherical or orb-shaped. Colors ranging from white to yellow, orange, red, or blue. Size varying from basketball to car-sized when observed up close. Glowing with steady or pulsating luminosity. Behavior. Rising from the ridge or valley floor. Hovering in place for seconds to minutes. Moving horizontally along the ridge line. Sometimes rising vertically into the sky before disappearing. Occasionally splitting into multiple lights or merging together. Speed varying from stationary to rapid acceleration. Frequency. Most commonly observed after sunset, particularly in autumn. Appear several times per month during peak periods. Less frequent during summer months. No predictable schedule or pattern. Observation points. Several established viewing locations allow reliable observation. Weissman's View Overlook, most popular. Lost Cove Cliffs Overlook. Brown Mountain Overlook on NC Highway 181. Jonah's Ridge. On clear nights during peak seasons, witnesses at these locations have a high probability of seeing the lights. Scientific investigations. 1922 USGS study, Mansfield report. George Mansfield's investigation concluded the lights were likely reflections of automobile headlights, locomotive lights, and other man-made sources reflecting off atmospheric layers. He claimed to have traced specific lights to specific distant sources. However, critics noted, the lights were reported before widespread automobile use. The lights appear in areas where no roads exist. The phenomenon predates locomotives in the region. Mansfield's report didn't account for all observed characteristics. 1977 Oak Ridge National Laboratory investigation. Researchers from Oak Ridge Isochronous Observation Network conducted a scientific study using cameras with telephoto lenses, spectrum analyzers, triangulation equipment, weather monitoring instruments. The team observed and recorded multiple light phenomena but couldn't definitively explain them. Their report acknowledged that while some lights could be traced to distant sources, car headlights, campfires, others exhibited properties inconsistent with known explanations. Appalachian State University Studies, 1980s 2000s. Professor Daniel Catton from Appalachian State University conducted multiple investigations starting in the 1980s. Using telescopes, cameras, and video equipment, Catton documented the lights and attempted to determine their nature. Catton's findings. Many lights can be explained as distant sources, headlights from highways, aircraft, etc. A subset of observation cannot be explained by known sources. Some lights exhibit behavior inconsistent with reflections or distant sources, particularly the ones that rise vertically, change direction, or appear in impossible locations. Catton remains skeptical of paranormal explanations, but acknowledges that not all Brown Mountain lights fit conventional explanations. Theories. 1. Electrical discharge, piezoelectric effect. The mountains contain quartz and other crystalline rocks. Tectonic stress could theoretically generate electrical charges, producing plasma-like lights. This is similar to earthquake lights observed in other regions. However, Brown Mountain isn't seismically active enough to generate frequent tectonic stress. 2. Swamp gas methane emission. Decaying organic matter in valley swamps produces methane, which can spontaneously ignite. However, The lights appear at elevations above swamp level, and methane fires don't exhibit the controlled movement patterns observed. 3. Ball lightning. Rare atmospheric electrical phenomenon. Ball lightning typically appears during storms and lasts seconds. Brown mountain lights appear in clear weather and last minutes. 4. Temperature inversion reflections. Atmospheric layers with different temperatures can create mirages, reflecting distant lights. This explains some observations, but not lights observed by multiple witnesses from different angles simultaneously. 5. Bioluminescence. Glowing fungi or insect swarms. However, biological sources don't produce the brightness or movement patterns documented. 6. Unknown atmospheric plasma phenomenon. Some researchers propose the lights represent an atmospheric process, not yet understood by science, a natural plasma formation created by specific combinations of geological, atmospheric, and electromagnetic conditions, unique to the Brown Mountain area. Modern observations. The lights continue to be reported regularly. Online forums and social media groups dedicated to Brown Mountain lights allow observers to share sightings in real time. Many visitors successfully observe the phenomenon using the established viewing points. In 2016, a group of electrical engineers from North Carolina State University observed and filmed the lights using high-definition cameras. Their footage shows multiple lights rising from the valley, hovering, and moving laterally. Analysis of the footage ruled out aircraft, drones, and vehicle lights as sources. They concluded the lights represent an unexplained phenomenon worthy of continued study. Cultural impact. The Brown Mountain lights have been featured in local Cherokee folklore linked to spirits of warriors, several academic papers and scientific reports, television documentaries, books on unexplained phenomena, music, the 1960s song Brown Mountain Light by Scotty Weissman. The U.S. Forest Service acknowledges the phenomenon on informational signs at observation points, describing it as one of North America's most enduring natural mysteries. What we know. The lights exist. They've been observed by thousands of witnesses over centuries. They've been photographed, filmed, and studied by credible scientific teams. They exhibit consistent characteristics across independent observations. They appear regularly enough that dedicated observers can witness them with reasonable probability. What we don't know. What causes them? Why they appear specifically at Brown Mountain and not at geologically similar locations. Why frequency varies seasonally. What controls their movement patterns? Brown Mountain lights remain an active scientific mystery. They're not hidden. They're not rare. They're observable, documented, and unexplained. 3 cases where the evidence is recorded, measured, and undeniable. Hessdalen Valley. The automated station still records anomalous readings. The lights still appear. Scientists still study them. The Cecil Hotel elevator. The footage still exists. The questions it raised still have no answers. Alyssa Lamb is still dead. Brown Mountain. The lights still rise from the valley. Observers still film them. Science still can't explain them. 3 cases where evidence exists. Not hearsay, not folklore, not imagination. Recorded data, scientific instruments, physical documentation. Here's what makes these different. You can't dismiss them as stories. The Hessdalen monitoring station publishes data publicly. You can review it yourself. The Cecil Hotel footage is archived online. You can watch it frame by frame. The Brown Mountain lights appear regularly. You can go there and observe them. The evidence is real. The phenomena are confirmed. The explanations don't exist. When scientists point instruments at the paranormal and the instruments say, yes, it's there, what does that mean? Have you studied the Hessdalen data, analyzed the elevator footage, observed Brown Mountain lights yourself? Drop your findings below. These cases reward deep investigation. Share this with someone in STEM fields. These aren't ghost stories. These are scientific anomalies waiting for explanations. Subscribe to WhisprFrame for more documented phenomena where the evidence is undeniable and the science is unsettled. Because sometimes, the most disturbing truth is that we don't know. The lights still glow in Norway. The elevator footage still plays. Brown Mountain still produces its mystery. And science is still watching.